It's a great home for us to do a lot of the work that Harlem Arts Alliance members produce. For example, throughout this hospital, especially on this floor in the atrium area, you'll see photographs by members of the Harlem Arts Alliance photography unit. A number of years ago now, it's almost 4 years ago, we were asked to have our members share their photographs for an art exhibit. Over 250 photographs were presented for a so-called 3-month exhibition, and now the exhibition is extended to 3.5 years. And our members generously decided that it was important to give a gift to this hospital. And so we're very, very honored to be here and to have our members permanently a part of this hospital. Here in the Harlem Hospital Center. And what is historic about this particular building is that you see the murals because the art and culture of our community is gallantly displayed here with these murals that were produced in the 1940s as part of Roosevelt's WPA initiative. And this hospital was the first hospital that had visual artists of color actually able to display and create murals for a New York City property. And it's all throughout this building and the new wing of the building, which is called the Mural Pavilion. And I just shared this with you because a lot of you are new to this facility. In addition, for the Harlem Arts Alliance, October is a very, very special month for us. 10 years ago, our City Council leader, Miss Inez Dickens, had decided to create the Harlem Arts Advocacy Week. And for 8 years, we marketed and promoted a number of our members, but advocacy was always an important issue for us. 2 years ago, we decided to extend the week to a month. So the whole month of October is called Harlem Arts Advocacy Month. And for a lot of you who haven't captured your information, it's important that we get it, because Joyous and the Harlem Arts Alliance team will make sure that we get this fantastic calendar that we have. Another assignment that I see that I also have is that one of our dance icons from this community transitioned a few months back. He was also very important in creating something called Dance Africa. And he was a master. He was a master when he was here, bridging the African American culture with the African culture and the dancing. So for Chuck Davis, I would like all of you to stand so that we can give them a standing ovation. And when I count to 3, we can start welcoming Chuck, that we still recognize his artistry and his talent. So let's, 1, 2, 3, let's give him a standing ovation. Thank you. So we'd like to move the program. At this time, I would like to introduce Tiffany Reyes Fisher, Artistic Director, Lisa Monty Dance Company.
Hello and good evening. I am Tiffany Ray Fisher. I'm the Artistic Director of Elisa Monty Dance and a member of the Advisory Board for the service organization Dance NYC. I'm pleased to welcome you to tonight's Town Hall, Dance, Artistry and Advocacy in the Harlem Arts Community. Tonight, as you know, is about dance making and racial equity within the Harlem Arts community. Panelists will tackle the question, what is the role of the Harlem dance community in addressing racial equity and in using their artistry for advocacy in our current political climate? As well as, so that's not it, that's meaty, right? All in itself, but there's more. As well as propose strategies to address racial equity within the Harlem dance community. So we're here to do some work today, right? Yeah, the panelists are gonna get into it. So I'm really, really excited to see what they have to say. Dance NYC is proud to partner with the Harlem Arts Alliance and the Harlem Hospital for tonight's conversation. With this partnership, Dance NYC acts on its commitment to advancing a cultural ecology that reflects the racial and ethnic makeup of the metropolitan New York City area and corrects for racial homogeny and the nonprofit dance workforce underscored by its research. By engaging and amplifying voices of the African, Latina, O, X, Asian, Arab, and Native American communities in dance, Dance NYC will increase the potential of the art form to contribute to a more just and equitable metropolitan area. This work of coalition building and advocacy gains urgency in our current national climate. And I think that's something that we can all agree with, right? Yeah, we're all here for that. Which is wonderful. I have some partners and friends to thank for making tonight possible. In particular, the funders of Dance NYC's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion initiatives, made possible with leadership support from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation and Booth Ferris Foundation. Our convening is also made possible, in part by public funding from the New York Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council and from the National Endowment of the Arts. I would also like to thank the staff and the volunteers working behind the scenes to make today possible. And can I ask for a round of applause for all of those? Just a few logistical notes before I bring out our moderator. So the first thing to know, it's really important, is that you are being photographed and filmed for archival purposes. I'm not trying to tell you how to act, I'm just letting you know that people will see this, and it will be documented, so just something to keep in mind. Second, you can help us extend the conversation on Twitter by using the handle DanceNYC and hashtags townhall, and hashtag HAADance, and any post that you have tonight. So if you are on social media tonight, please use those posts so we can keep the conversation going. All right, and let's talk about what you can expect for tonight. So the evening will consist of a performance by Volcaniente, African American Dance Theater, followed by a conversation with dance makers Ryan Victor, Little Evil Pierce, Sydney L. Mosley, Ariel Rosales, and Leah Tubbs, moderated by Monique Martin, who is the Director of Programming at Harlem Stage. And this will be followed by a Q&A. So if you have questions, we invite you to find Alejandra, who will be going around with a microphone, or if you want, you can send your questions via Twitter, and a member of our team will address your questions to the speaker on your behalf. So with those few notes, it is my honor to introduce Volcaniente, African American Dance Theater. Thank you so much.
I myself was born a prostitute. 1960, that is. I was raised on 133rd Street between Linux and 7th Avenue. And of course, I was introduced to the rock-based school of dance theater by way of street performance. I was so inspired that I joined the rock-based school of dance theater in 1970. I studied and traveled to perform with the Rockaway Dance Company. From there, I was introduced to the late great Babatunde Olatunji. I studied, performed, and traveled with the late great Olatunji drums and dance and fashion. I would go on and on and on. However, there is a place that I need you to visit, and the whole story will be told. October 21st, we will be at the Symphony Space Theater. We need your support. Today I have 2 members of the company. There's about 28 and growing members of the cast that you will see on October 21st. Please keep that in mind. Ajay?
Recently read from Junot Diaz, the author Junot Diaz. How do you constitute your community? I'm not so arrogant that I only constitute my community in a very narrow, selective way. When I constitute my community, I think in a generative way, where I include the people who came before me, and I include the possibility of the people who will come after me. That opens up a lot more room and a lot more space. If your community is no further than your inquiry, then it doesn't seem like any agency is possible. But if your community extends more generously, more capaciously, well, certainly there's a lot of grounds for hope there, just by the way you framed your history, your reality. Framing is as important as anything, and so when I include my grandparents, who didn't have 1/10 of what I had, and yet who labored super heroically, when I include my great-great-grandparents who lived on the edge of these explantation systems and were at any moment at the danger of violence and the politics of these explantation systems, and yet they labored super heroically towards a better life. When I include them in what I consider my community, on my compass of thinking and of being and of feeling, possibilities open that might not have been there if my gauge was very narrow. So as we think about equity, we often think from a financial lens. Who has more than I do? How can I get what they have? And we know that we are continue to create from a lineage of creators. So I wanted to ask each of the panelists to talk a bit about What is equity for you and your company? And how do you bring your creative lineage with you into your practice?
That's such a good question. So I think for SLM dances, we create equity by centering the stories of Black women. And it wasn't always that way, but I think that as I have gotten deeper into my artistic practice, it has become more clear and more important to me to not only tell and share those narratives, but even in the process of creating the work, in the process of building the infrastructure of the company, I am supporting women and Black women in particular. What's interesting is that I do have a multiracial company. And so it is very important to me that everyone who is a part of the company has a very active, like they are working on their racial analysis. They are working on their gender analysis. We have conversations all of the time. Right now, the two most salient questions about every dance work we do: what is the role of the white dancer in this work? What is the role of the Black dancer in this work? And we have those questions and we have those discussions. It is also, for me, the fact that I'm so committed to supporting women in the dance field, which we know so many women are part of the dance field, but not many of us hold positions of power, not many of us hold positions of leadership. And so to prepare and to share the skills that are necessary to develop leaders is very important to me. And that is the way that I am pushing equity, because I'm giving my dancers the tools that they need to become leaders in the field and leaders in their own endeavors. In terms of my creative lineage, I have my lineage is long and wide and vast, and I love this quote that you shared because it's absolutely how I'm thinking about community. Like, it's not just the people who are immediately around me. It is, my family on both sides. I'm making work thinking about my grandmother's cake. I'm making work thinking about my grandfather's family in Louisiana. I am making work thinking about what can young girls who we're doing education programming with, what can they pull from this? So that is absolutely a part of it. And then, I am so grateful to, my dance teacher who I grew up with, and she literally taught me what it means to dance in the street and to dance with people and to dance for people. And I think, I'm grateful for, my training. I'm an alumna of Barnard College, and so the dance program there was very impactful on the way that I have grown as an artist. And then, I'm also just thinking about just the everyday things, the everyday choreography of my neighborhood. I often sit in my window and I call it the urban theater. And I just see out my window everything that's going on, from people who are just playing the oldies on the weekend, to the people that's turning up at night, to, I love Harlem. And so that all of those things, all of those communities are layered, and they intersect in the work when I get into the studio.